209. To please come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Well done, ladies. Thank you very much. One of the things I have the pleasure of doing in the United States Senate is a program that I started shortly after I took office, which is to name Granite Stater of the Month as a way to honor the spirit that makes us who we are as Granite Staters, to find people every month, and in New Hampshire it isn't hard to do, who are making a particular difference in the lives of their community and of the state. And it just so happens we have our most recent Granite Stater of the Month, Eric Becker, here with us tonight. And Eric, would you come forward, please? I know many of you already know about Eric's fine work and what a difference he's made, but I don't often get to read the text of what I submitted to the Senate record in front of the recipient of it. So this is what the tribute to Eric Becker says. Mr. President, President of the Senate, I am proud to recognize Eric Becker of Lancaster, New Hampshire, as August's Granite Stater of the Month for his dedication to improving the community he grew up in and for lending support to those in need. As the Student Assistance Program Coordinator at Grovetown High School, the very same high school that he graduated from, Eric sees firsthand how important it is to ensure that students have both emotional and material support throughout the year, not just during the school months. During the summer, kids usually lose the relationship that they form with teachers during the school year. To prevent his relationships from weakening during the summer, Eric spends 15 hours a week at the school, helping to distribute free lunches to kids in need, while also acting as a big brother for students who just need someone to talk to. Eric also works at the community homeless shelter, Pilot Lane House. He started out as a support staff member, but moved his way up to a full-time case manager position to help individuals seeking to break the cycle of homelessness and get back on their feet. In addition, Eric is the founder of the Black Crow Project, which he and a few friends founded after seeing how the substance misuse epidemic had negatively affected their community. The Black Crow Project seeks to act as a support system for those impacted by substance abuse. Right now, the group is working to revitalize the Lancaster Grovetown Coalition, a community coalition that provides support, training, and guidance to individuals suffering of addiction. In 2016, the group also put on one of the largest Narcan kit distribution awareness events in New Hampshire. One of Eric's favorite projects as part of his work with the Black Crow Project is the Small Town Loud Fest, an annual event that brings people of all ages together to combat substance misuse, all while listening to area bands in a substance-free space. To top off all of this community involvement, Eric also acts as a recovery coach for those battling addiction. In New Hampshire, we have a tradition and ethos of seizing the initiative in order to make a difference. And Eric's activism and engagement exemplifies what it means to be a Granite Stater. His passion and dedication to improving the lives of the people who he grew up with is making a difference and will spur and enable others to do the same. New Hampshire is lucky to have him. Again, Eric, thank you for everything you do, and it's always an honor for me to tonight. It's also really special for me that you've all taken the time out tonight to be part of this town hall. And you know, I find myself thinking every time there's TV coverage of a town hall for some national elected official or somebody running for president, I think back to the fact that here in New Hampshire and throughout New England, we've had centuries of town halls where we come together, even when we disagree, and often maybe because we disagree, to solve problems. We have a tradition in those meetings of what I would call spirited engagement. Maybe spirited civility is the word. I still remember that when my husband and I first settled in the town of Exeter, going to town hall, sitting on the bleachers in the gym, and just chatting with folks who I hadn't met yet about what was happening in Exeter and what kind of issues we were confronting as a town was one of the ways I learned about my town, but again, it was also one of the things that reinforced for me how special New Hampshire is and how special it is that we come together regularly in our form of government and in our communities to talk to each other, understanding that we all love our state, we love our country, and we want to make a difference and move forward. We're problem solvers. That's what I hope we can accomplish here tonight. I recognize and frankly, I welcome people who are here who may not agree with me on any number of things. And I hope very much that we will be able to get to everybody's questions or concerns. If we don't, we have lots of the staff here from my state office here in New Hampshire, and we also will have index cards or papers available for people if you want to jot down a concern or question you have so we can follow up with you. I'm going to open it up to questions and answers in just a minute, but what I thought I'd do first is just do a little bit of a brief report on what I've been focused on, both in DC and then back here at home. One of the great things about living in New Hampshire and doing this job is I get to come home for about half of every week. I go down to DC on Monday midday, I come back usually to New Hampshire Thursday nights, so I'm able to spend kind of Friday through Monday morning also touching base with people here. What I try to do in DC is bring our tradition of problem solving to the Senate floor and to my committee work. I'm on 3 committees. One of them is called Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. That is very relevant to one of the issues I hear most about from people, which is healthcare and healthcare costs. I'm also on the Finance Committee, which oversees tax and trade policy, and is where we are dealing right now with the issue of the high cost of prescription drugs, among other things. And lastly, I'm on the Homeland Security Committee, and my focus there has been on everything from concerns about the spread of domestic terrorism to cybersecurity, and the other piece of the Homeland Security Committee is actually called government oversight. So I help run a committee that looks at federal spending and trying to make sure that taxpayer dollars are being used effectively. That always has felt like a good fit for me, given how frugal we are here in New Hampshire and how much we care about how carefully dollars are spent. The issues that I spend most of my time on start still with the thing that I think is our biggest public health and safety challenge in New Hampshire, which is the opioid epidemic. So I have focused not only on policy but on resources, and was proud of the fact that Senator Shaheen and I, along with our colleagues in the House, were able to get about $50 million more in resources over a 2-year period for New Hampshire to help us build out that hub and spoke model so that everybody, every county at least has a place where people who want to go into recovery can get help. We still have to build up that system. We still have a workforce to build up, and we still have a lot to learn about how to do this, but it's a step forward. I'm also working on the health committee on a number of things, but one of them with Senator Murkowski, who's a Republican from Alaska, is making it easier for doctors to do medication-assisted treatment. That is the gold standard for how you help people who have substance use disorder. And right now there are a lot of bureaucratic barriers for doctors being able to prescribe is available so that we're building on some work we did while I was governor when we doubled the state research and development tax credit. I also hear a lot from businesses about their need for workforce, and I hear a lot about people who are in the workforce or planning on entering it, students in high school and sometimes in college, about their concerns, not only about the expense of higher education, but their desire for workforce training and career training that is relevant to the needs of businesses. So one of the bills I have, another bipartisan bill, is called the Gateway to Careers Act. What it does is invest in and incentivize partnerships between educators like our community college system and business and industry groups so that the educators are building curriculum that are relevant to what industry needs. I'm hearing a lot up here about the need for manufacturing, people who have advanced manufacturing skills. In other parts of the state, it's all about welding. And those kinds of needs are things we need to make sure people can get training in and that they can earn what the educators call a credential at a time. So you get done with high school, or maybe while you're still in high school, you begin doing a training program. You may be paid for training that gets you to that first level, for instance, of welding. Then you go work for a while, you save some money, you get the next credential. So we're trying to make sure that we have an education system that meets students where they are and also meets people who are mid-career where they are. Because a lot of us started working, it's my age, a lot of us started working well before there was a digital network of any kind. It wasn't digital technology at all. We want people to be able to change jobs, train up well, and continue their pathway forward in whatever career they choose. And the other piece of that work is making sure that we can help people overcome the barriers they may face, whether it's transportation, childcare, healthcare, recovery from substance use disorder. Those barriers sometimes keep people from getting to school, staying in school, or getting to work and staying in work. And that's one of the other things that this bill will do. Those are some of the issues I've worked on. On Homeland Security, I continue to focus a lot on cybersecurity and on government oversight. One of the things I'm doing is working across the aisle with some colleagues to make sure, for instance, that all taxpayers can see a transparent list of programs that the government spends the money on and what the performance metrics are for those programs. Another bill we have is to make sure that analysts in Congress look at any proposed legislation to see if it's going to duplicate a service that we already do. Because the federal government is pretty big, and sometimes you discover that there are multiple programs trying to address some of the same problem. We want to streamline that and make sure dollars are being spent effectively and well. Part of my job is also, and most critically, making sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our country safe, secure, and free. So I will continue to do everything I can, whether it's looking at nominations
Mitch McConnell could block the other 99 senators from doing their job. Is there anything going on with that?
Thank you. I think you all heard the question. We are very concerned that there is a lot of legislation that many senators in both parties would like to debate, propose amendments to, take action on. There is a lot of agreement on any number of issues, as I'm sure you know, that Senator McConnell, who is the majority leader of the Senate, has refused to allow us to vote on. And there isn't a lot we can do unless we were able to convince the Republican senators to vote to change rules. And so far, we have not been able to do that. The majority of the Senate gets to set the Senate rules, and the majority leader has a lot of power. So what I encourage people to do is ask the same kind of question you're asking me, so I can make the point to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle that my constituents are eager for us to be able to actually debate and amend and take votes on legislation. You don't always pass everything you want. Sometimes the things you don't want get defeated, but we should be able to debate on them and vote on them. And right now, Senator McConnell is really not letting that happen on any number of issues that a lot of Americans agree a great deal on. So,
Hi, Senator Hassan. Thanks for taking my question.
Sure.
My name is John Swan. I'm with Save Forest Lake.
Yep.
And it seems like this country, we have a problem with trash and recycling. And I know it's not a very sexy topic, but here locally, we're trying to fight off a corporate entity that's coming in to Dalton to create a 180-acre landfill, quarter of a mile from Forest Lake, with the Amanuset River on the other side of the proposed site. So first off, I'm just asking for your help and anything you can do to help us here in New Hampshire, especially the North Country, because this is only 5-6 miles up the road. It's going to be devastating for North Country life going forward if this is allowed to happen for generations. If we're talking the future for Casella waste systems and also along with that, the importation of out-of-state trash, which currently is about 50% of what's going into New Hampshire landfills is from out of state. So we really would love some help relative to trash, recycling, plastics, and here locally with Saving Forest Lake. Thank you.
thank you for your advocacy and for giving such a good overview. First of all, New Hampshire is a spectacular state in terms of its natural resources. They're important to who we are. I would like to think that the way we blend independence and community in New Hampshire has a lot to do with our physical surroundings. And I also think it's really important that we recognize how important these natural resources are to not only our way of life, but to our travel and tourism economy, which is obviously a huge thing in this part of the state. I'm also really glad you are here and speaking up about it, because individual advocacy makes a difference, as it has many times in New Hampshire. In terms of landfills being cited, I think right now you're dealing mostly with state authorities and local authorities, and I will urge you to continue to raise your voices. One of the things I did as governor was try to reduce some of our processes so that the local voices had much more weight than they had in the past. I think that's going to continue to be important. If this becomes an issue where the EPA is asked to take action or has a role to play, I certainly want to engage the Federal Environmental Protection Agency with all of you to see how I can advocate most effectively. As I think you probably know, that's something that Senator Shaheen and I and Congresswoman Custer and now Congressman Pappas have been doing over, for instance, the Pease Air Force Base with the issue of water contamination there. And we are pushing really hard to real and very dangerous. So we are pushing the FDA to take more action. I can get you more specifics about our most recent action. We can share with you the letters we've been on and the other actions we've taken after this, okay? But thank you for raising it. And again, what's really useful to me, and I'll repeat this for everybody, when I can go back to Washington and say to my colleagues, a high school student asked me this question. She's very concerned that this is happening. This is what she's seeing. We need to come together and work on it. That's how we make bipartisan progress, is we don't debate, the role of government versus the role of industry as much as what's our issue, what's our problem, how do we protect our young people, and we'll continue to work on that. Yes, sir.
Senator, thank you for being here. My name is Calvin, and I get to work in the mental health community, in our community. And I want to ask in the issue of domestic terrorism and homeland insecurity, is the needle moving anywhere when it comes to gun control? And are we making progress down in Washington as far as doing background checks and making sure that weapons are in safe hands or in people that can handle weapons?
Well, thank you, first of all, for your work in mental health. It's really important, and it's one of the places where we know we have more work to do. The question was about both domestic terrorism and gun safety. And I'll just start by something that I think we all are grappling with, which is the most recent mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton happened back-to-back in one weekend. It is devastating. It's obviously something we can hardly grapple with individually when you think about it. I think a lot about the victims, their families, the communities that are impacted, but then I also think about the fact that those two back-to-back mass shootings happened within a week of another one in Gilroy, California. And there have been episodes after episodes after episodes of mass shooting. I believe very strongly that we can both respect the Second Amendment but take common sense steps. So I support extending background checks that currently exist so that when you buy a gun online or at a gun show, you also go through a background check. I also believe we have to get weapons of war off the streets. When you think about the number of deaths and injuries caused by these gunmen in an incredibly short amount of time, it is outrageous. So we have to get the weapons of war off the street. And then I also think legislation forward too. Who else is here?
Hi, my name is Eileen Creedon. I'm also here with Food Safe for this week. Interest, and I appreciate your willingness to look at it at a federal level and the work that you do. I guess my request is that you might use your influence to get the folks in Congress to take a look at this. It's potentially a devastating issue for the North Country and for this area. And I think you could influence people's interest in it, and I request that you please follow up on it.
Well, thank you. We will follow up with you and get from your group a full briefing about it, and then I'll talk with you about the best way forward. I certainly understand the concern, and I think there are processes at the state level that's going to be really important to engage in, that I think you have a right to engage in.
Thank you.
Okay. We have another, Linda has a question. Once everybody's had a first question, if you've got a second one, I'm happy.
Thanks, Maggie. We know that the Senate really hasn't passed any meaningful climate legislation since 2009 when the emissions trading proposals were abandoned. Is there any plans for future climate legislation that's going to be meaningful?
Well, thank you. Climate change is an existential threat, and we see the impacts of it here in New Hampshire every day. When I'm up here and I'm talking anywhere in the state to a maple syrup producer, they're feeling it. When you think about our ski industry, they're feeling it, and we are all seeing it and feeling it with warmer temperatures, more extreme rain, intense rain in shorter amounts of time. It's here, and we need to have a multifaceted approach. One of the things that I think is most important that Senator Shaheen is leading on is a bill that would simply require the United States to live up to the commitments it made in the Paris Accord that President Trump pulled us out of. Again, that's not something we've been able to get a debate on. In addition, I've been trying to find common ground with colleagues on the other side of the aisle, just so that we can create the kinds of incentives for clean energy, clean vehicles, through tax incentives, for instance, and working on things like incentivizing and supporting the research and development that we need to do to make battery storage more and more possible, again, to support clean and alternative energies. So there is grave concern about climate change. This administration should not have pulled out of the Paris Accord. It did. We're trying to say the United States has to live up to it anyway, but it is, in terms of overarching legislation, it has been stalled in the Senate. The one thing I will say is that at a local and state level throughout the country, there are still a lot of good initiatives going forward. So you have cities and states, for instance, saying, we're going to keep our commitments to the Paris Accord. We're going to continue to do our work. And I think it's encouraging, for instance, to see that four of the automakers decided to work with California to improve energy efficiency standards, despite what the Trump administration is doing here. So we need to do more federally, but I also want people to know that where we can find the relationship where we think it's necessary. In the case of China, we certainly have legitimate concerns when it comes to their theft of intellectual property and their forced technology transfer. And one of the other things that we raised when I was in China with the Chinese government was that this is a bipartisan concern on intellectual property and forced technology transfer. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. What the Chinese have been doing is wrong and unfair to American businesses and American workers. Having said that, this administration needs to not only develop a strategy and then be disciplined about the implementation and dealing with the Chinese about it. I'm really concerned that this trade war may be escalating. The news reports today that perhaps the Chinese government has indicated that they don't want to escalate, but I think all of us are eager for the two parties to sit at the table and really hash this out, and we shouldn't be doing trade policy back to it.
My brother is a fisherman, not in this state,
Yeah.
in the state of Maine, lobsters, and I read that our magazine the other day that the Chinese are not buying their lobster by hand.
Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing the Chinese turn down their suppliers, and that's impacting our fishermen and farmers, our businesses generally. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
I know it's an important issue to you as well. Here in the North Country, we have a high population of people with disabilities, and what I hear all the time from my line of work is Medicaid and Medicare is being cut all the time, so they're having a hard time getting access to their basic life needs. And I'm wondering what you can do in DC to help, because it is becoming more and more of an issue where they're having to choose between the medication that their person with disabilities needs or actually getting them out to be a productive member of society.
Thank you. The question was generally about resources, but particularly medical resources for people with disabilities, particularly the price of medications. So let me just start with the latter issue, and then we may want to follow up on some of the specifics that you asked about after the meeting tonight. What we've recently done on the Senate Finance Committee is pretty significant, because for the first time that anybody can remember, a bipartisan group of senators voted in a way that Pharma opposed. Big Pharma had been trying to push back against efforts to curtail drug prices, and we finally got a bipartisan vote out of our Senate Finance Committee to move forward with legislation that I'll talk about a little bit in my opening. But the legislation is important for a number of reasons. One, as I said, for Medicare Part D, We will have to see again whether it gets to the floor. But ultimately, we need to make sure that every American gets the kind of health care that they need, right place, right time, right care. As you may know, my husband Tom and I, who are blessed with two terrific kids, have our oldest child, Ben, who has very severe disabilities. And so we have seen our healthcare system from kind of every aspect there is. And a long time ago, I worked as a lawyer for a hospital, so I have some sense of the different perspectives. But we have a lot more work to do. And if there are particular issues you're facing here on Medicaid or Medicare coverage for people with disabilities, I'd really love it if we could touch base, my staff and you could touch base moving forward, and we'll see if there's other specific things we can do. Yes.
Sure, name is Tom. Question on Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Do we stay at current levels? Do we totally go? Do we stay at reduced levels? And why?
Yeah.
Whatever your answer is. Where do you see the ramifications of it, whatever we do?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The question was about Afghanistan. Let me start by just saying we owe a debt of gratitude to the men and women who serve our country in the military that none of us will ever be able to repay, but we have to try and repay. That also means that we have to make policy decisions about if we go to war, when we go to war, carefully, because we are putting the lives of servicemen and women at risk. And we know if we send them in harm's way, some of them will lose their lives on behalf of their country. So I am watching the peace process that is playing out in Afghanistan very carefully. I am concerned that we make sure that there is a real pathway that will keep Afghanistan stable and that will allow us and our allies to have the kind of relationship to continue the fight against terrorism. We have made good strides in, at least temporarily, eliminating ISIS's caliphate, physical caliphate, for example. But we also know that ISIS will go underground for a while, it will move elsewhere, it will evolve. We know that about Al-Qaeda too. And so I think we have to be very vigilant in our efforts here. I want to understand more about the details of the peace that's being negotiated. I know that the president has just indicated in the last day or so that he may keep some more troops in Afghanistan than he's planning to, because Senator Graham spoke up about not wanting to pull too many troops out too suddenly. But the other thing I will say is that if we are going to be able to withdraw troops from the Middle East, it's going to be not only because the right kind of peace agreements are being made, but also because we have strong alliances in the fight against terrorism. One of my big concerns right now is that our alliance with NATO is not as strong as it should be. They've been critical in helping us fight against terrorism. And I am concerned that when this administration disrespects or undermines NATO, it hurts our capacity to fight terrorism, and it hurts our capacity to withdraw troops from Afghanistan.
So your decision is?
I am following developments closely. I don't know enough yet to know precisely what I think we should do. And part of my challenge is that this administration seems to change. He announced that we were withdrawing troops from Syria without any consultation with the Secretary of Defense. And so it is hard for us to know and rely on the information we're getting. Okay.
I'd like to just bring this back to earth again, last treaty. It's something the landfill, the recycling, and closely related. The more we recycle, the less we have to dump,
Right.
especially things that don't deteriorate for thousands of years. We come from a town that doesn't recycle. Fortunately, Littleton will take anything. So whenever we come to Littleton, we bring up recycling. We were in a relationship with the town across the river in Vermont, but the state of Vermont came up with a new mandate requiring more recycling. Therefore, we had to be cut out because they couldn't handle the volume of the two towns. And our town decided not to do anything because of the cost. Is that this is not a federal issue, but it's on the state level. Is anything happening in regards to helping towns coordinate recycling?
I haven't looked at the issue on the state level for a little while. I'd be happy to have my team and connect about that. I agree that it's really important to recycle as much as we can. I don't know if you caught the news, but Marriott, which is the world's largest hotel chain, is talking about getting rid of its many small bottles of toiletries, for instance, following some other hotel chains. I think we're seeing a recognition of how damaging all of these plastics can be. And I do think it's really important that, especially for very small towns in New Hampshire, that they have a way to coordinate and perhaps get the advantages of working with other municipalities to incentivize and recycling, but also to do it on a scale that makes it economically efficient, right? So we will follow up with you. And the other thing I'm going to ask my team to follow up on is whether there are federal incentives that help communities. I don't know whether there are, but you're giving me some ideas, so thank you.
Apropos of that, my feeling is that companies with a business model that has as part of it generating something that either isn't recyclable or is very difficult to recycle, because that creates a cost for people downstream, should in some way have to pay for that. Secondly, on a totally different note, I work for DCY in New Hampshire, and you mentioned earlier how many grandparents are raising children, which is absolutely true, and thank God, because we don't have enough foster homes, so I look at them as gold.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in many situations, there aren't available grandparents there, or they're infirm, or for whatever reason can't do it. And we've run into a situation recently where people will come forward who they may be a distant relative, they may be a close family friend but not blood related, who, because of that, aren't eligible for any funds to help support the care of these children. So we had someone come to our office who's taking guardianship of kids, didn't realize she'd get no assistance with it, and was at the point of almost wanting to say, can you take the kids back? I just can't do this. Her intentions are positive, but I feel in a circumstance like this that the standards we determine eligibility for some kind of support from the state need to be modified to address this unique situation.
Well, first of all, thank you for your work, and thank you for being an advocate for kids. I agree with you that there are a number of people who are stepping up here who are going to need supports. It's one of the reasons on the grandparent side of things, we passed legislation that is helping us have a commission really looking at what kind of supports they need in particular so we can make recommendations. And I hope determine best practices that the states and perhaps the federal government can follow. I want to look at what else is going on in the particular issue. It isn't a grandparent, but it's a non-blood relative, not a friend or somebody who wants to support what other options there are currently and what options we might help develop. Some of this is more of a state issue than a federal issue, but often we end up doing some level of matching funds or overall supports for state efforts. So I want to look at.
I feel like the state determines kinship based on what they feel like can be reimbursed for by the federal government. So that's what I'm.
Okay, all right, then let's follow up on it. It's a really good point, and I appreciate it very much. And I appreciate all the people in New Hampshire who are stepping up to help kids in this crisis. It's right here.
My thing is, we should have a good Army, a Navy, and an Air Force if we're going to fight any kind of battles on foreign soil. Our National Guard really belongs here. It should be under the
just were over at Pease Air Force Base, where they delivered the new KC-46 refueling tanker. We're the first National Guard base to get this new generation of refueling tanker, which speaks to how good we are in the refueling mission, which has been critical as we're fighting wars over the Middle East, right? Because that's the pathway that so many of our planes take. And a number of our guardsmen and women have gone through multiple deployments. And this is not what these citizen soldiers and their employers necessarily expected to be doing. So I agree with you that they have been relied on too much. As governor, it was a point of pride for me about how good our guard is and what a difference they made in our efforts to keep our country safe. As governor, I also had some of the same concerns that you're expressing, which is we also need the National Guard to be available at home in time of natural disaster, for instance, or an event that Massachusetts dealt with, like the Marathon bombing, right? You want to be able to activate people at home if you need to. So I, over time, have learned pieces of the history of how it is the National Guard got increasingly utilized in this way. And what we will do is follow up with you. One, I'll take your point back to Washington with me. And two, I'd like to understand better what the genesis is of the focus that we have, the overuse we have of the National Guard.
The other thing I have is I'm worried about, as a retired person, I'm worried about inflation.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting a big increase. Actually, prices have gone up and they're going to continue to go up. Yeah. Our income stays at basically a fixed level.
Look, people who are retiring need to be able to retire with dignity. People who paid into Social Security and Medicare throughout their whole working life should be able to retire with dignity. And we also need to make it easier for people who are working to save for retirement in addition to Social Security. So one of the things I've been working on with Senator Collins is a bill that would allow small businesses to join more comprehensive retirement plans, join with other businesses to do it because it allows their employees to access retirement plans without them having to start it all up and carry it themselves. That's one of the things we can be doing, but to your other point, we should have benefits that at least keep pace with inflation. And we need to make sure that people who work hard all their lives and paid into Social Security and Medicare have the retirement they were planning for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. We're winding down. Tim.
So, most of the topics you talked about tonight all relate to bills that the House passed or the Senate passed and went to the governor's desk and were vetoed. Gun control, environmental issues, net metering, biomass. What advice can you give us representatives, because you've been in the legislature, you've run the state, to talk to our constituents to tell them how to educate either the governor or those that might not want to support an override of some of these vetoes of important bills like guns in schools? I mean, I still scratch my head on how I can't have Republican colleagues agree that guns in schools are not a smart thing. So what advice can you give us to talk to our neighbors, our constituents, to sort of change this trend?
I think it's a really good question, and I think what I would continue to urge people to do is reach out to people who, either if it's in the legislature, you know how they voted, you know what they think, but reaching out to your friends and neighbors who maybe don't get engaged with their elected representatives very often, reaching out to people so that they understand what's happening in Concord, who's taking what position on issues they care about is critically important, and listening to each other and then encouraging people to speak up. I know in Concord, I know in Washington, it makes a difference when we hear from constituents about what they care about, what they think we should do. I also think it's really important hear out the concern, then you see if you can address it, you amend the bill and you move it forward. That's what the legislative process is supposed to be about. That's what the executive implementing laws is looking to do as well. You get a proposal and you look at it and say, okay, here's the problem I'm going to have with that as the chief executive who's trying to solve this problem too. People need to work together. Maybe a good way to close is, it's a great question. I talked a little bit about the travel I've had the opportunity to do as your senator. We have official delegations that are often and usually bipartisan delegations that travel to make sure that we're reaching out to our allies, that we are dealing with and sometimes politely and diplomatically confronting our adversaries. But we want to travel and make sure that we are getting the best information we can and also representing our country to people in other parts of the world. And one of the great privileges I had this last June was traveling with a delegation, and my husband was able to come to Normandy to celebrate the 75th anniversary of D-Day. There were a couple of pretty young people in the group who may not know what D-Day was, but June 6th, 1944. It was a turning point in World War II where Americans, British, and Canadians crossed the English Channel to land on the beaches of France to push back against Hitler. It turned the tide of the war. We lost massive numbers of Americans who came off of boats onto beaches into German fire to save freedom. It was as simple as that, and as difficult and awful as that. I got to go to Normandy, and I talked with and was able to thank some of the veterans who were there. And so a lot of these veterans who were part of that invasion are in their early 90s now, some of them in their mid-90s. And one of the things that struck me was the fondness and affection that they had about all of those they fought with. The Americans who were there would talk about the other Americans who were in their unit, who came off the boats with them, who lost their lives or who were injured. He also reminded me, my dad fought World War II in the Battle of the Bulge, and he was an infantry sergeant, and he would talk about the fact that there were disagreements in the unit, that, hey, everybody was American, and they loved freedom, and that's what they were there for. And they could tolerate some differences because they knew what their mission was. Our American mission is to bring out the best in each other. It is as simple as that. If everybody can live up to their talent and energy and live out their dreams, we are so strong. One of the challenges we have right now is we are pretty divided to a point where I know families who don't allow political discussions at the dinner table because they're afraid the temperature in the room will go up so high. We need to come back to a place where we can exchange our differences just the way we always have in town meetings and town halls in New Hampshire and other places. We need to respect each other as Americans. We need to hear each other out. We need to believe that we can solve problems, which we always have. So I hope you know that that's what informs my thinking when I'm in Washington. I'm really blessed to be able to do the work I do. I am grateful to the people of New Hampshire for giving me the honor of representing them in the United States Senate. I hope you will all stay in touch with my staff. You've got Justin here, and Ben is the North Country staffer officially who has office hours up in Berlin, but he can come meet you wherever. Usually I never find you in the office. You're out and about talking with people and being at events. We also have representatives, Oscar Reed is here from our constituent service office. If you know people, for instance, who are having difficulty getting their veterans benefits, or there's a problem with Social Security benefits, or they're a federal employee who is retired but their retirement payments aren't coming through, or if you're trying to thank you so much for being here